Good evening, good evening. Just confirm if you can hear me. You could just do so by just putting a comment, whether you're joining on YouTube or you're live here on StreamYard. Just confirm if you can hear me. Amazing, amazing. Good evening, everybody. While you're joining, just let me know where you're joining from. It's always nice when we know people where they're coming from. It's always a pleasure. So please just do well to let me know where you're joining. Tonight is going to be an exciting time. I'm excited, and I hope you are, because again, it's going to be super enlightening, and I'm sure you would have no regrets. Okay? So just let me know where you're joining from.
Mommy,
Okay, good evening. Okay, thank you. Okay, for those who are joining from YouTube, thank you for joining. Thank you. Just having some technical glitches. For some reason, I've always insisted that I want to use the StreamYard to be able to have these webinars, because again, it becomes easier. It's much more seamless and organized, in my opinion anyways. But I'm sure that tonight is going to be an amazing night. So yeah, so hope you have your pen, your paper. Now, it's showing that the number of us has joined. Remember when I sent an email and when I was doing the promo video, I said that I was going to select, at least maybe for the sake of time, 1 to 2 people who, with what we have learned here tonight, we will actually be on live diagnosing their businesses, or rather scrutinizing their ideas to be able to establish if those ideas are worthy to be a business. And so if you want to be part of it, this is where I'm going to now. If you want to be part of it, if you're confident enough, because again, I don't intend to, it's supposed to be a safe space, and the idea of it is for us all to learn. So if you're okay for us to be able to use your business to assess all that we've learned tonight, just I'm going to randomly select. So just leave a comment on the page, and then I would send you a link for you to come on live here. So in other words, you must be in a quiet place where you can be able to take calls, and then we're able to crack on with it. Okay, 2 more minutes and then we go live. 2 more minutes, because I don't intend to keep us all here for long. So 2 more minutes and we take it off. Okay, evening, everybody. Thank you all for coming. And so, very quickly, we'll crack on. And I'm hoping that as a result of tonight's session, you will be able to understand first things first, to understand that what Startup Community is all about, Startup Advantage Community, what we're all about, but more so to begin to apply the things that we teach here to be able to help you to start up a business, because our vision in Startup Advantage always remains the same. And that is essentially empowering individuals to build a sustainable economy. Okay. And so, evening, I know earlier on, for those of us who are just joining, if you could just leave on the chat, where are you joining from? Are you in the UK? Are you in what city are you joining from? Again, it's just for us to be able to assess our guests. And like I mentioned earlier on, if you're interested, perhaps I will just select one person. Perhaps you have an idea and you want that idea to be scrutinized and you're comfortable with that. Just leave it in the chat and then I will send you a link. With that link, you'll be able to come on live here and then we'll be able to evaluate your business, and I'm sure you'll be happy that we did. Okay, so even everybody, my name is Jeffrey. Perhaps you're wondering, why did I start up Startup Advantage? Startup Advantage Community started simply because we perceived that there is a need for the community, particularly here in the United Kingdom, for us to be able to build sustainable businesses. And this is my major reason why. I've been here in the UK for over 16 years, and this is a very candid observation. For many of us who are in the UK here, I believe you left where you're coming from, whether from Africa, Asia, South America, whatever continent you're coming from, you came to this country with a hope and a dream. However, I want to clearly tell you that that dream would not indeed be materialized based on your 9 to 5. And so you will realize that your 9 to 5 becomes essentially a tool that will help you live the dream that you want to live. However, part of what I began to observe was the fact that when it comes to married couples, and so perhaps you're married, this is an idea, a suggestion to you and your spouse to begin to consider. I noticed that the people who were able to escape the rat race, I mean, if you've read the book, Rich Dad Poor Dad, you'll understand what I mean by the rat race. For the people who have been able to escape the rat race, there was a consistent formula that I observed. Either of the spouses worked a 9 to 5, while the other one was focused on building a business. And when the business became stable enough to cover their 9 to 5, then the other spouse switched to also begin to build another business or come and join them in building that business. And so I believe particularly that a business is that tool that you and I are able to use to accomplish our dreams. So in tonight's session, one of the things that you will be benefiting from is the fact that you will begin to realize that, first of all, you begin to identify what it takes to build a lasting business. But more so, I'll be able to explain to you the differences between an idea and a genuine opportunity. Because many a times we over celebrate our ideas, not knowing that that idea is only great in your head up until you put it under the scrutiny of the market. And then you realize that perhaps your business is just an idea, not even worth investing in. But also, I'll be able to teach you 2 frameworks that I developed, that I believe this framework becomes handy for you all throughout your business journey. And the idea of it is you're able to share it with others, and I'm sure you'll be able to help you guys as well. But also to begin to honestly identify which of the layers where you are in. So I would explain that layer as we carry on. But again, just please bear in mind, and perhaps you don't have a pen and paper, I will encourage you every time you come to the Startup Advantage community sessions, it's a learning session. And so there is a need for you to have your pen and your paper. Someone told me many years ago, and he said, the bluntest pencil, the bluntest pencil is sharper than the sharpest mind. In other words, what you are able to write down is more important than what you think you are able to remember. Because again, science has it that we think over 60,000 thoughts in a particular day. You can barely remember 1,000 of them. And so what you write down is a step for you to be able to remember what you have written down, and then you're able to make the most of it. One of the things that you're going to learn from tonight's session as well is to be able to define your target, because every business is driven towards a certain target. For many of us who live in the UK here, have you noticed that whenever you see a McDonald's, if you look not far off, you see a Burger King? And now the question you will ask yourself is, if these guys are really competitors, then why are they existing in the same place? Ideally, you should have gone to a different location where there is no fast food there, and then you are able to establish your market there. But you understand that they are speaking to different audience. And so for any business to thrive, you must be able to identify, who am I delivering value to? And once you identify this, every other person becomes a distraction. And then you are able to fully assess. So at the end of this, towards the end of it, I'm hoping to teach for 40 minutes. And then towards the end of the session, we are now able to review our businesses and to be able to see whether it's worth investing on. And this is my last call. If you're comfortable with the idea of your business being reviewed, please, you must have joined here. Either you got an email. If you're comfortable with your business being reviewed, just reply to that email, because the chat doesn't seem to be engaging enough. But reply to the email that you had where you received this link, and then we're able to review it. It's not going to be embarrassing, rather than it is going to be encouraging. And for me personally, where I think is a good idea is because here becomes a platform that would allow you to also advertise your business. Because one of the things that StartUp Advantage exists to accomplish is to be able to network individuals. Perhaps your future investor could be part of this community. Perhaps your future business partner is able to exist in this community. And so don't just write your being in this community off and say, oh, perhaps I'll never know. But you can never know who you're going to meet. And so with that in mind, if you're interested in your business being reviewed live here in this session, what you would do for me is that you would just reply to that email and we'll get it going. And so here is my first question for all of us who are in tonight's session. Okay. How many of you have had a brilliant business idea and then you shared it with people, and the people who were closest to you told you that that business idea was amazing? Again, I expect you to please use the chat. Use the chat, whether you're on YouTube or on StreamYard. How many of you have had a brilliant, in your mind, you assumed that your idea was a brilliant idea, and then you had people who were closest to you? So when I mean closest to you, it could be your friends, your family, your colleagues, and they told you that your business was a brilliant idea and it was gonna get off the ground. Okay? Anybody? I expect you guys to use the chat wherever you're joining from. Mostly YouTube. Your YouTube would have a chat. Okay? I'm expecting to see some responses. And then, how many of them were willing to patronize your business? In other words, they put their money where their mouth is, and they said, you know what? Because I believe in this, your business, I'm going to pay for the services that you claim to offer, and they didn't have to haggle. Okay? Yes? Thank you. And they were willing to pay. So not just that they told you it was amazing, but they began to patronize your business. And let me even stretch it. Not just patronizing your business, they began to tell other people about your business. Anybody? Please, just 2 people have responded. Thank you very much. I can see Jemima here. I can see Oreva. Yes, tell me. I want to see the chat being engaged. Okay, only like 3 people paid. 3 is enough, because the truth be told is, my boss of blessed memory, Neville Share, he always used to tell me something. And then when I used to work for him, he had us wear a t-shirt, and on that t-shirt it said SWSWSWN. And what that simply meant was that some will, some won't, so what? The next person. And that must be the idea that you must have in your mind. In other words, some people would patronize your business, some people will not patronize your business, but at the end of the day, so what? You move to the next person. Because guess what? When your dream or your business actually evolves to be an established brand, it is those same people who will come around saying, I always knew you were going to make it. Okay? And so it becomes very, very important that you understand this principle. They keep saying, oh, I knew you were going to make it. Okay? So I want to hear you. Okay? And so let us now take it a bit further. Did you know that an idea is not the same as a business opportunity? Many a times we start a business because of an idea and not necessarily because there is an opportunity. And this is where you begin to understand whether your business is going to be sustainable or not. And what I'm hoping to accomplish here is to begin to allow you to think like an entrepreneur. If you allow yourself to be a slave to passion, so what that means is that oftentimes you will hear people say, you know what, if you want to build a business, you must build a business around your passion. In other words, what you love doing, what you're good at, that is how you should be able to build a business. Now, that idea to some extent is true, but it's not always true. It is better for you to build a business because there's an existing demand. So let me just break it down for you. A business idea, you realize that it starts with you. In other words, it's all in your head. You're the only one who is imagining it. I remember one time when I had this idea and I thought it was a brilliant idea until I began to try. So then, many years ago, I tried to start up a business where I was just walking on the streets one day. Now, this is for those who live in the UK. So perhaps if you have an idea like this, let us see how it's going to work. Okay? And so I will share maybe two ideas that I had that perhaps you never know who could be my next business partner here, but let me share what I want to share. And so I had this business that I looked at old people, and these people always found it hard. They come to do their grocery shopping, and for some reason, they have to walk back home. And I began to think, what if I created a business that allowed shopping for elderly people? In other words, what that simply does was that rather than them pay you, so this was where my mind was at that time. And I believe something can come out of it anyways. But the idea was that they will pay you a subsidized fee on the basis that their shopping would go on your club card points. So that was the idea. And my idea was then, what Tesco used to do was that you could convert your club card points into cash. And so that was how I began to think about it. But by the time I began to review it, speak to one or two people, and just begin to flesh out the idea, I realized that maybe that idea has not even matured as yet. And so for that reason, I shelved it. But I believe that something along those lines could actually come up. Okay? But again, the principle I want to share is that an idea is only based on assumptions. It's not based on market realities. And what assumption is that you're assuming in economics, they'll say all things being equal. In other words, if I go out today, that means how many times have you thought about this? You say, okay, fine, you know what? I want to start up a business. And let's assume worst case scenario, I have 10 customers and I charge each customer £100. That means I will get £1,000 in a week. Now, that is you assuming that 10 people will patronize you. But what if on that day when you launch and only one person comes? So you realize that you can't even scale your business. How much more make it even sustainable, because your assumptions were wrong. And so, as much as assumptions are good, assumptions only exist in the ideal stage. But more so, an idea, you don't have any defined customer, because the customers who are going to patronize you, they don't even know you yet. They don't even know your products yet. They don't even know. I mean, a classical case is this webinar. I remember when I started this Startup Advantage in November 2025, based on my assumptions, the idea was that I was going to target immigrants, and particularly because I just had the heart for people who had a vision, who had a dream, and that they wanted to build something lasting, such that your children don't have to struggle like the way you did, or to be able to get to this point in life. And so even your business became, therefore, a legacy that you could also pass across to your children. So those were the things that I began to think of at that point in time. But nonetheless, I came to realize that my assumptions, although I have a good product, and the reason why I believe I have a good product is simply because you are here. You are here. Okay? But the difference between an idea and an opportunity is largely because an opportunity is that, in this case, that you are already starting a business because of a problem that you saw that exists. So, in other words, it wasn't you looking for a problem to solve. In this case, the problem already existed. You are now coming as a solution, because whether you like it or not, every business exists to solve a problem. So perhaps you can write that down. As an entrepreneur, if your business is not solving a problem, you don't have a business. All you have is an idea. So every real business, I mean, take for example, when I moved to Swansea 16 years ago, Amazon wasn't this big. But what you notice is that Amazon has made that ease of shopping. And that is the reason why you realize that most physical stores are shutting down. And the reason why they are being shut down in this instant is because people are now shopping online. And so your business opportunity, there's an evidence to back it up, and it's based on a real life situation. Okay? And so this is how you and I are able to, first of all, differentiate between a business and an opportunity. So this leads me to my definition of what a business is. Okay? If you're still here with me, type in the chat and let me know. So based on your own idea, what would you call, or what would you define as a business? Just one or two people. One or two people. Okay? Based on all what I've shared so far, what would you regard in your own head or in your own estimation as what is a true business? Quickly, quickly, quickly. I'm mindful of your time, and I've only got 58 more minutes with you. Okay? What would you regard as a business? What would you regard as a business? What would you regard as a business? Okay? For the sake of time, because I really, really want to accomplish what I want to accomplish. This is what I defined as a business here. Okay, thank you very much. Someone here said, let me put it up here on the screen. Someone said a business is solving a problem with the potential of making a profit. Absolutely. Absolutely. First, so in other words, every business exists for problem solving. And so if I was to rephrase your definition, this is what I would define a business as. First things first, a business is a vehicle. In other words, it exists to provide value. And that value, like Ibube said here, is that it is solving a problem. Okay, someone else said a business is something that creates value. Fantastic. And you get monetary rewards in return. Okay, all these are fantastic ideas. But if you notice my definition, there were 4 key things that were very much present to make it a balanced definition. Number 1, a business is a vehicle. it exists. There must be a channel. So either you are a sole proprietor, you are a PLC, you are a limited company, you are a partnership, but it must be. Can you guys hear me now? Okay, StreamYard. 1 2 1 2. You can hear me now, right? Okay, great, fantastic. Okay, thank you very much for pointing that out to me. I'm very grateful. Okay, so what I'm saying here is that even Tesco, when you notice Tesco's model, Tesco first of all existed primarily to be a retail grocery company. But even at that, their biggest, I'm sure when you analyze their revenue in their books of accounts, you will realize that the largest product in their marketing mix that delivers the most value is this thing called their grocery line. And so every business exists to a specific target. You cannot satisfy everybody. And so don't build a business with the idea that everybody will buy from you. That is a mistake that you will make as an entrepreneur. But as a result of that, of your target audience, you are then rewarded for the value that you are providing. Okay? So let's look at it this way. These are the 4 pillars of a sustainable business. Number 1, what can you deliver? Because it has to be a vehicle. That vehicle is what you are going to be using to deliver that particular idea or fulfill that opportunity or solve that problem. But then the next element is value. Does your business, and please note these things. So this is how you begin to assess your idea. This idea, can it be a vehicle that would deliver value? Have I identified an audience who I'm going to deliver this to? I mean, a case in point, I did not start StartUp Advantage for every entrepreneur. That would be a mistake. My specific target is immigrants. So I'm very clear. As much as I would like everybody to come on board on this project, but my specific target is what? Immigrants. Because the vision here is that I'm empowering people to build businesses, to grow their businesses, and to impact on the economy. That is my value proposition. To help you to build a business, to grow your business, and consequently impact on the economy. Because the truth be told is that every economy rises and grows on the businesses. I was having a conversation with someone on Friday, and I said, one of the mistakes I perceive that the government is making is that they believe that when they increase taxes, that is how the government is going to have more resources to be able to deliver value to the citizens. But as much as that is good in theory, it is not practical, because every economy that grows thrives on small businesses. So in other words, and I was telling the person, I said, part of my recommendation would then be for the government to begin to explore innovative means to be able to create a good environment that allows people like yourselves to be able to build your businesses. Because guess what? When small and medium scale businesses become successful, do you know what happens? They pay more taxes. And by paying more taxes, not in terms of percentage, but in terms of the volume of businesses paying taxes, the government is able to have access to more resources, and then they're able to build it. And I gave that person a case. I said, look at America today. Why do they say the American dream? The American dream is because a nobody would come to America standing the possibility of becoming a billionaire once they commit to delivering these things that I've told you. And that's what the UK must begin to explore. How do we begin to empower immigrants? Because if you notice it, I mean, I don't want to go into immigration issue here, so I don't get sidetracked. But the idea of it is that when you begin to review your idea along these 4 pillars, I guarantee you, you are able to build something that is sustainable. So let's take a deep dive. The first thing first is your vehicle. What's your delivery model? In other words, when I'm talking about model here, is that how are you going to be delivering this? For example, are you going to be a virtual business? Are you going to be do you require a physical location to be able to run that particular idea? I know some people here, perhaps, maybe your end goal, there's somebody that is part of my coaching clients. They run a nursery today, a full-blown nursery. But that business didn't start as a nursery. They started as a child-minding business. In other words, they didn't have to wait until they got a venue. They started that business in the comfort of their living room. God being so gracious, today, they are now evolved to become a nursery. But the vehicle that they were using to deliver that value was their home. So when you are saying a vehicle, what systems are you going to be using to deliver it? And these systems here, it could be digital systems. Are they going to be online payment platforms that you're going to be engaging? Are you going to be collecting cash? If you're going to be collecting cash, how does that evolve in terms of you keeping records? Because when your business begins to grow, part of the dangers of running a cash-driven business is that your operation system is exposed to pilferage. Okay? So the simple concept here is that you must begin to think of the vehicle. How are you going to deliver this value? Okay. And then part of the vehicles is that your legal structure. Are you going to be a limited company? Are you going to be a sole proprietor? Are you going to exist as a partnership? All these things have a role to play because each of them has their attendant consequences towards you delivering that value. Then, secondly, we have talked about the concept of the vehicle, but now we look at the second element of it, which is value. And this is the most important. Allow me to say this because it is the extent of the value or how valuable your services are that you are able to command the reward. So, for example, why do medical professionals in developed countries earn more than a certain category of people? Why? Because when push comes to shove, I watched an interview of this guy who is he's a cancer coach. And when he said cancer coach, in other words, people who have been diagnosed with cancer, he counsels them because he is also battling with his own rare form of cancer. And he said, when you don't have money, please listen to this statement to validate this element of value. He said, when you are healthy, you could have 99 problems. But when the only problem you have is a health challenge, those problems is streamlined to one thing, and that is what? Survival or health. And so what I'm trying to use that example to explain is the fact that when it comes to value is relative. It is relative to two things: who you are delivering it to and why you are delivering that value. So for somebody now who perhaps is a baker, and you are in an area whereby there are no bakers, there are no stores. Already, you're more valuable than you being in an environment whereby there are many competitors in the market. And so your value proposition becomes very, very low, except you're able to come up with something different, something that is unique, that will make you stand out from the rest. For example, people who are immigrants, part of the biggest challenges that immigrants have in the UK here is childcare. So all of a sudden, you realize that childcare becomes a valuable business as long as you're able to get your numbers right and you get your structures right. That is one of the ways, because then you are able, because you are commanding value. Because these are children. Because if the children can't have a place where they go, the parents are not able to work. And they're not able to work, the economic situation of that family becomes affected. And so the value becomes important. What meaningful problem or need or desire is your business solving? Okay. And then the third thing is who specifically needs it. I think I've touched on this. Who specifically needs your business? Who experiences what you have to offer? And then this is where you begin to streamline how you're able to, because this element now tells you how you're going to advertise. It becomes very, very important, because for many of us who are or who have some level of exposure when it comes to marketing, you realize that you don't market to everybody, you market to a target audience, because those are the people that you are targeting to. So have you noticed that when you watch TV, you would rarely see a Ferrari advert or an airline? When I mean airline now, I'm not talking about Emirates or Virgin Atlantic. Why haven't you seen airline manufacturers advertise their plane and say, oh, come and buy Boeing 767 for X amount of money, we'll give you discount? No, because they know that their target audience are not on TV. So you realize that everyone has a specific audience, the customer, people who are going to compensate you for the value that you're bringing to the table. And then the element of it is the reward, because this reward is that, you can have, and this is where it becomes very critical. You might have a brilliant idea. You can have the vehicle. You already know the value you're bringing to the table. You have a specific audience. But if the amount that they are paying you for it is not worth it, you can't afford to, it's not sustainable. And for me, as an accountant by profession, I'm always thinking about sustainability. So that somebody, remember when I started this session, I asked you guys the question, how many of you have your family members approached you and said, oh, you have a brilliant idea, and all of a sudden, the moment you started, they were willing to pay you for what you had to offer? Now, that's good, but businesses don't grow based on one-off customers. Businesses grow as a result of repeat patronage. Write that down. Businesses don't grow because of one-off sales. Every business grows because of what? Repeat patronage. And so part of what I'm hoping to accomplish with you guys who are part of the community here is that we are able to build businesses that guarantees repeat patronage. Because what happens when your customers are able to repeat their services? You are able to forecast, because then you're able to plan. This is how much I expect to make within the next 6 months or 12 months. And based on that forecast, you can now begin to strategize how you are going to expand your business. So those are part of what it becomes critical if you are going to build something tangible. And then let us test this idea, because this is how you are able to know whether you are able to have or that you have a sustainable business. Remember, I shared here that the 4 pillars for a business is what? There must be a vehicle, there must be value, there's a specific audience, but there's a reward. But now, this framework that I came up with, this is how you are going to apply it. First and foremost, before you start a business, you must ask yourself, who are my audience? If you don't have an audience, all you are just trying to do is that you will start your business and nobody will ask you how far. So you must have a specific audience. And then you ask yourself, how much are these people willing to pay for it? Because this is where you begin to do, there are several means to establishing this data. You could do it through market survey. You can just ask, okay, when you start this, I remember my wife runs a cake business, and part of the strategies that we used when she started the business was, when she began to bake, at first it was for free, because we understood, for someone who hasn't tasted what you have to offer, how are you going to make them aware of what you have to offer? But when they began to taste it, then we began to ask the question, if you saw this in the market, how much were you willing to pay? Because you see, it is that value that tells you what you need to build into your cost profile. You don't have the luxury of using expensive items to develop your product if they're not going to pay an expensive price. And so then that leads to the reward. And then based on this, you are now able to identify how you are able to deliver. Because take, for example, let me give a practical example here. Let me give a practical example. So, for somebody who wants to start a beauty product brand, mind you, if you're going to build a beauty brand, or in other words, a skincare brand, you are mindful of the fact that you would need to invest in advertising and marketing. You will need to invest in production. In other words, you have to find a manufacturer who is able to deliver exactly what you are promising the people to buy. And then part of your decision is that you're now asking yourself, based on how much these people are going to pay, is it worth me having a physical store, or should I just make it a virtual store where people order and then I just go and post it to them rather than having walk-in customers? Now, when you begin to ask yourself these salient questions, that will now determine the kind of vehicle that that you're going to be able to use to deliver the value that you're promised. So you realize that all these elements become very, very crucial. And this is what I want to also pass across. An idea may therefore live in your head, but only a true opportunity is what will survive a viability test. Only true opportunities will survive a viability test. So remember, you joined tonight's session because part of my value proposition to you was that by the end of tonight's session, you'll be able to actually validate your idea. In other words, you will put your ideas under a certain microscope and ask yourself honest questions. Based on the answer to these questions is what will therefore determine either you should go back to the drawing board, or you should just carry on with what you're doing, or stop it entirely. Okay, so let's crack on. I came up with this thing I call the customer validation framework. And what this simply does is that you begin to validate, because don't forget, remember, we defined a business as a vehicle that delivers value to a specific audience and is compensated or is rewarded on account of the value that is being delivered. Okay? Now, this is where you begin to establish whether you really have a business that is scalable or not. Because what I'm trying to do here is for us to test. And this is the key point here, because we're testing pillars 3 and 4. And what is the pillars 3 and 4 here? Our pillars 3 and 4 is our audience and the reward element of it. Okay? And the audience part of it, for me, is the reason why I created this. And this is my statement here. Not all buyers are equal. And I will explain. There are 4 layers of buyers. So in other words, you would have 4 layers of buyers. And a true business is where your audience is sitting at the 4th layer. So let's look at it. When it comes to your business, you would have what I call sympathetic buyers. These are people who buy from you as a result of pity. At least let me just support this person. Let me just encourage this person. I call them the sympathetic buyers. In other words, your friends, your family, your church members, for those of us who go to church, your colleagues, they patronize you. But remember, I said, what builds businesses is not one-off purchase. What builds businesses is what? Repeat customers. So, for example, that your mom is buying your cake doesn't mean that you are qualified to now own a bakery, because it's just a one-off. They are just buying out of sympathy. Let me just encourage this person. But you're very much aware that if you are going to build a long-lasting business or a solid business, you are going to have to build this business with your eyes closed. And when I mean eyes closed, is that people are no longer buying from you out of pity, but because of they need the value that you have to offer. And so for that reason, at whatever price you're delivering that value, they are willing to pay. And so in other words, what this proves at this sympathetic level, first and foremost, is that the product actually works, is working. Maybe you cook and they tasted your food and they said, oh, wow, this food is sweet. So for that reason, at least they are getting some value, because don't forget, people buy, most purchases are bought with an intent for value. So in other words, when you look at the cost benefit analysis to it, in other words, how much is it costing me and what am I benefiting from it? Every customer would always want it to be minimum at equilibrium. In other words, the cost I'm paying for it is equivalent to the value I'm getting. But whenever the cost is higher than the benefit, that's when customers begin to feel cheated. So, for example, you say that you are the best chef ever in the world, and the people should come to your premium restaurant and they pay for a seat at the table only for them to come and the food is not that great. How many of us remember those? I think on about before the pandemic, about 8 years ago now, there was this guy who Nosret, whenever he wants to sprinkle salt, he will use his hand and do it, and it will just drip. And all of a sudden, he will wrap the steak in edible gold foil. How many of us remember? If you can remember, just leave it in the chat and just say, I remember, I do. How many of us remember that business? Yeah? Come on, guys, come on. I need engagement. I need this energy here. People must be active. You are here for a business class. Okay? So you remember him. Why is he not existing today? Thank you very much. That's his name, Salt Bay. Yeah, that's his name. Why is he not existing today? As a matter of fact, I think it was sometime last year, his most thriving location was his restaurant in Dubai. And the reason why was because it was very intentional, always wearing a white t-shirt, a black glasses with the whole Bruce Lee vibe. And all of a sudden, people come to his restaurant. And it was really attracting celebrities. And so he began to build a restaurant. Yes, he had a restaurant in Dubai. He had a restaurant in LA, different parts of the world. But all of a sudden, those chain of restaurants began to close. Why? Because people then began to say that he was too expensive. And people, thank you very much, Onyedola. Thank you. At least somebody is there to validate my statement. People began to complain that the money that they were paying for it was not equivalent to the benefit. Okay? And that it wasn't even tasting that great. And all of a sudden, eventually the business had to shut down. So what am I trying to say? Minimum, everybody who is building a business or is buying from you is expecting that the money I'm paying at least should be at equilibrium with the value I am getting. But this is where you are able to guarantee repeat customers, where the benefit outweighs the cost. And so that's why, if you notice, every business that has lasted over years has always been focused on the value and not the reward. Because if you get the value right, the reward would come nonetheless. And so for you, who is the entrepreneur that is here, your focus must be on delivering excellence. In other words, the perceived promise that you have told customers that are going to get, you must be able to exceed expectations. And exceeding expectations also involves not just, say, for example, you are a cook or a chef. It's not just about the taste, it's about the whole experience. That's why, for example, allow me to promote my wife's business brand here, because again, I will promote what I believe in. Part of what she began to do, and I told her, I said, look, don't be sorry for what you charge. Because the truth is, what people are coming to get from you is an experience. It's beyond the tasting of cake. Yes, her cake tastes amazing, and I dare beat my chest. Go and call Donald Trump. No cake tastes better. But beyond the taste, I've always said, is the experience that you get from that whole experience. And so even from when you ring the phone to book a cake, from the whole experience of you making your choice, all those things are part of the experience that a customer would, at the end of the day, you say, you know what, I think I got value for my money. Okay, so sympathetic buyers. Number two is the trust transfer. In other words, this is word of mouth. Hearsay. They say, oh, have you tasted that lady's cake? Oh, have you patronized this person's restaurant? I mean, it's amazing. I can beat my chest. Is this, is that? This is trust transfer. In other words, people are therefore now staking their integrity and their reputation to introduce your brand. So remember I said you guys must be writing. The first layer is what? Your sympathetic buyers. Your sympathetic buyers, you now have the trust transfer buyers. In other words, these are people who have trust in your brand and they are willing to transfer it by recommending you to somebody else. So it is not just these people have shifted in such a way that, okay, I've tasted this particular person's thing and I think is what somebody else experiencing it. You know, somebody was telling me a story of a customer who sent them a voice note, and the person played the voice note for me, and the customer was just so elated. They're like, my God, I've never had this experience before. I mean, I've been wondering, where have you been? This, that. You know what? I must tell everybody that initially, when I engaged your services, I wanted to keep the secret to myself. But I told myself, how can I do this? You know, just like the 4 lepers, for those of us who are Christians here, they're like, you know what? We have come into a big bounty. We can't eat this alone. We have to go and tell somebody. So somebody is taking their credibility. Why? Because they have enjoyed the quality of service that you have to offer. Now, it is at this layer 3 that you begin to know that, yes, I'm cooking on gas. When you begin to have cold buyers. So in other words, these people are now patronizing you. You don't know them from Adam. But they read a review. They went to your website. They went on your Instagram page. And they said, you know what? I don't know this person, but I want this person. I want what they have. And so for that reason, I'm willing to pay for it. These are strangers. I remember one guy, I used to screenshot his page on Instagram. He makes shoes. And I kept on telling myself that, you know what, one day, whenever I need someone to make a pair of shoes for me, I would definitely patronize this guy. And that time came, I reached out to this guy and I said, look, I don't know this guy. I've never met him. But because of what I have seen, I've seen certain people who I consider to be credible wearing the product. I said, you know what, I'm going to commit to this. And thankfully I did. There are certain people I see on Instagram. I mean, one second. There are certain people that I've seen their pages on Instagram. I remember a guy, I saw his watch, and part of what he was saying was that part of how he got me sold on the watch brand was the fact that he said, I wanted a blend between luxury and affordability. And that was always me, because part of my principles as a person is that I don't have to wear expensive things to look nice. It's just a personal thing. And so for me, I was like, okay, fine. You had me at hello. So I kid you not. The last time I counted, I had bought about 12 to 13 watches from this person, and I've given them as gifts. Now, aside from the watch, my Apple Watch, all my watches are this brand. Why? Because I believe in what the guy is doing. And so you realize that these are strangers. You don't know them, they don't know you, but because they have seen the reviews of other people's experiences, and they're willing to put their money where their mouth is, and they're saying, you know what, I want to patronize this person. Then when your customers or when your buyers have shifted from sympathetic buyers to trust transfer, and you're now having cold buyers, you are cooking on gas. Now, this is where I want everybody to be. This is your repeat or your compounding buyers. In other words, they have tasted it before and they are coming back again and again. These are the people who would help you build your business. Did you get me? Yes, your sympathetic buyers, money would come to the table, but is that you don't build a business based on sympathetic buyers. So if only your customers are your friends and family alone, you don't have a business. Number two is that you have trust transfer, people who are willing to stake their integrity, their reputation, just to make sure that somebody else patronizes you. And that basis, you can't build businesses on these people. Again, when you have cold buyers, that simply means that a stranger is now seeing you and is saying, you know what, I believe in what this person is offering. But the most part you want is when you are now having repeat customers, such that when they think of that particular need, you are the number one person that comes to their mind. Those are the people that you build your businesses on. I don't know if you guys have heard this principle. I'm going to do a podcast on it sometime this week. In economics, there's something they call the Pareto's principle. And the Pareto's principle simply means that you must have heard it as the 80-20 rule. And what the 80-20 principle simply says is that 20% of your efforts is responsible for the 80% of your output. Please catch this. That 20% of your efforts is responsible for the 80% of your outcomes. So, as a wise builder, you begin to ask yourself, who are the 80% in my business? Because those are supposed to be your repeat customers. Those are the people that you would need to focus your attention on. Because guess what? Your repeat customers are the people who will sit between your repeat customers and also your trust transfer customers. Because it's a repeat customer that is coming back again because they believe in your product. But now when somebody begins to ask, do you know anybody who can? They will be your trust transfer buyers. They will be the one to recommend trust transfer buyers. Those are the two significant parts, because once you get it right, once you identify your 20%, focus all your efforts on maintaining that 20% and watch how your business will expand. So, one stranger buying, one will call it as luck. But when a stranger is buying twice, then you have a business. When a stranger is buying, then you have a business. And so this is where the shocker comes for many of us who are here. Maybe you are at the idea stage, you are at the early stages of your business, and you want to understand something. The truth be told is that if all your customers are still in layer one, you don't have a business yet. Allow me to say that what that simply means is that you just have a support system. But again, you cannot build a business without what? People being in your either particularly as a repeat buyer. Okay? So that is where it becomes very important, so that the effort that you must do in this exercise, in this class, is that you must begin to define your real customer. This is where you have to think it through. Who are my target audience? Because once you identify your 20%, these are the ones that you must focus on. So who are your customers? Are they women, or are they men, or are they children, or are they couples? But there must be a unique, there must be a unique what's it called, a unique audience. And the more specific you are about it, the better. So I gave an example here that, what if your target was first generation NHS workers who are within 28 to 40 years and they live in South Wales? Then you are becoming specific, because if you just say women age 20 to 45, it's too general of an opinion. But what are their pain points? Because when you are able to narrow down the pain points, I mean, I will use biblical principles here. The Bible says that Mary and Martha, that the difference between Mary and Martha was that Martha was busy doing many things, but Mary was doing one thing. So for you as a business, the more you are able to narrow that problem down, the fewer, the better. The fewer, the more specific you are towards who you're delivering. And so, what are their pain points? Because I cannot just say, and that's why I asked you, I said it here, that when I started this platform, I didn't start it for everybody. I started it, my target audience was very clear. Those who are first generation immigrants who are here, because people like you and I, we were not born here, so we are first generation. And the idea of it is that we intend to build a business, to grow a business, and then impact the economy and pass on these legacies to our children. So that's my target. It's not for everybody. And so these are people who are feeling trapped. In other words, they are researching, how do I break the yoke of this rat race every day? I'm running, oh, I'm looking for shifts or this. What are the other ways that I can explore to be able to build a business? And then what do you need? And that's and what I provide here on this platform is financial literacy. It's financial literacy, because you're here. I'm equipping you with the knowledge that you need to be able to run your business. As a matter of fact, what will happen is that in our next session, I'll be teaching us on, I think it's 2 sessions from now, because I've already mapped it out on how it's going to go. And one of the sessions that I'll be taking is how to know your numbers. How to know your numbers and how to manage your numbers, because that you are making good money doesn't mean that you are keeping good money. There's a difference between many people coming to the door and retaining. So retaining what has come in becomes a skill that every entrepreneur needs to have. Okay? And so this is where we come on to play. Remember, I said somebody who is on the call, who is willing for us to review their businesses, want to get tested. Any volunteers? Any volunteers? Any volunteers? If you're not shy and you want to come on here, I can send you a link, and then you will join and we'll be able to just review your business. You tell us what you do, how long you have been in business, and then we can be able to have a conversation. But the key point here is that you must be in the place where you are able to talk and you're comfortable sharing. I will not go ahead to ask you personal details. No need about that. But it's just based on what we have learned so far with the customer validation framework and the business viability framework. We'll look at your business and then we're able to tell where you are sitting and what you need to do next. Okay? I can see Oyinola, you're saying that you're willing. Okay? So let me send you an email. You will get an email from me in few seconds, and in that email you will see the link to join. So okay, you can check your email now. You can check your email now and then click on the link to join, and then let's take a deep dive at your business and see what you need to do. Okay. Okay, we'll give 15 minutes. Okay, Oreva is willing to do that. Oh, wow. Okay, I'll take just the two of you because of the sake of time. Yeah, just the two of you, and then we would. So Oreva as well. I'll send you a link. So, but after Onilola, then you will jump on. Okay. Oh wow. Okay, guys. I offer what's it called? I offer free 30 minutes session. So I'll bring you on. So Inola is here now. So let's have her on board, okay? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can hear you.
Great, fantastic. Okay. Thank you for joining. And I mean, it's very bold of you to want to join here. So that's good. So very quickly, tell us what's the nature of your business
Okay.
and what do you do? And yeah, let's start from there.
Um, my name is Ointola. I recently started a food business.
Okay.
It's called Lola's Grill House. So it's really small scale in terms of it's just home based. So I make fish from home. So
Okay.
I make from my kitchen and I sell to people. So it's just me basically um making grills. So tilapia fish, catfish with sides and pepper sauce, and I sell to people. So I have my target audience
Okay.
mixed.
That was my
Yeah,
next question. So
yeah,
what
I
are your
have
target audience?
audience mainly as I'd say Africans, but if I'm being honest, the majority of those that patronized me are Nigerians. A few non-Nigerians, but
Okay.
yeah, Nigerians. And my business is just a little over a month, going on
Okay.
2 months. And so far, I haven't done any paid adverts, nothing. I've just been running on people's recommendation,
So
basically.
now you have reached the trust
Referral.
transfer level.
Yes, I have. That's how
Yeah.
I've been.
So okay, that's good.
And I do want to upskill, but I'm aware of the limitations that I have. One, visa issues, registering businesses, and all that. So I the other day I thought of doing flyers to because I've been thinking of ways to upskill and get more visibility. But someone mentioned something of, oh, just keeping it under wraps. You don't want too much attention just because of certain limitations that I
Why?
have.
Why don't you? Okay, maybe because of the confidentiality here, right?
Yes,
As
yes.
part of my contribution towards what you have to offer, yeah, I'll give you the free 30 minutes
Thank you.
one-to-one session, yeah. But
Thank you.
you said something that I want to ask a question here now.
Yes.
And you said that you already have your target audience, which in your own estimation is Nigerians, okay? And you said that you are considering of registering a company. Next, our next session is we're looking at legal structure, the right legal structure for you to use, whether you should still exist as a sole trader or you should still exist as a limited company. Now, I will give you the pros and cons in that session. For those
Okay.
of us who are new to this community, we only meet once every month, and it's usually the third week, the third Sunday of every month. So you can note it in your calendar now. The third Sunday of every month. Is that right? Hold on, let me check my calendar 1 second again.
Second Sunday now, I think.
Yes, it's the second Sunday. Sorry, second Sunday. No, no, no. The reason why it was now was because, don't forget, the one for July I had to reschedule because I had a family emergency. But having said that, so let me check my calendar. Okay, so our next session is in September, and it would be the 20th of September. Yeah, so it's the third. It's always the third Sunday in the month, is the third. Today was just an exception because I was making up for the last one that was missed. So it's always the third Sunday. So our next session will be September the 20th. So you can note it down on your, yeah. But back to my conversation with you. So you said you wanted to, I don't know whether you should register as a company or register the company. Now, that we can address that in your one-to-one session. But I wanted to ask a question.
Right.
Do you have any issue with your customer target or your target audience being only Nigerians?
I believe that there are non-Nigerians that would patronize me because I
Okay.
sold to a couple of non-Nigerians, Ghanaians basically, and I
Okay.
believe other Africans that would be interested in what I'm selling. As a matter of fact, not just Africans. I think anybody willing to explore, like food explore.
Something different
Yeah,
from the traditional British
yeah.
fish and chips.
Long as they want something spicy, something, and it's seafood, it's fish, so anybody can consume it, and you just need to be open-minded. So I know that majority of my target audience will be Nigerians, but Africans, I know countries that would eat tilapia fish, that would eat catfish. I know some white people that will go to Africa and explore and eat our food. So Caribbeans, Jamaicans, they
Good.
can. I don't have access to them yet. That's why, I rely on people that consumed what I'm selling to repost and reshare and just, I'm thinking of ways to expand, without actually breaking the bank. But
Okay.
I said I'm worried about what I'm allowed to do and what I'm not allowed to do in terms of
Okay.
exposure.
So we can explore that. I know it's just 30 minutes because all I can offer is 30 minutes,
Yeah,
and everything is a paid session with me. But the idea of what I want to highlight here is the fact that one of the things, because remember we said that, how do you know if your business is viable? You have a vehicle, you have a target audience,
mm,
there's a value that you're willing to deliver, and then you're going to be rewarded for it. So, based on what you have said now, your business, yes, exists along these three, four lines. So, we have established that you are qualified, in quote, to exist as a business. The next level, therefore, for you becomes a case of how do we shift your customer profile from sympathetic buyers and trust transfers to getting it to the point where you are having the cold buyers and the repeat buyers. And for me, for the sake of time, I just have one more minute with you. For the sake of time, all I would say is you have to emphasize on your advertising. Advertising, not even
but
having Google ads or,
I do
yes.
have buyers, but they need to be more. They need to.
Yeah, so that's fine, because remember I said what needs to happen is that you now need to focus on your repeat buyers, because it's the experience that the repeat buyers have that they can now be willing to transfer trust to other people.
Mm,
And allow me to say this on here. Part of the things that kill people in businesses is that they start well, but along the journey, either due to demand, their quality begins to drop. And if you dare compromise, look at me, I'm holding my hands, at least the African understand me. If you dare compromise on quality, what simply happens is that your repeat customers will no longer be repeat customers, and they are no longer willing to transfer trust. So, what therefore becomes important for you in this phase of your existence is that you must ensure what are ways that I must engage to keep the quality or the standard, because part of what will determine the quality is that your packaging cannot be compromised. The quality of the fish cannot be compromised. However, we are dealing in an environment whereby the economic realities are unstable. And so this is where you begin to carry your customers along. But anyways, we'll have that conversation offline. But based on what this session is aimed to accomplish is that you have a business already, because you are no longer in the case of testing it out. The idea is already working. And allow me to put this idea in your head. What you are aiming, part of the problem you are hoping to solve is to create or replicate an experience for people who knew what having such fish felt like being back home. So that's a need. That's a need. That's a problem. I remember sitting down with a couple, and the guy said, I work so hard, and so for that reason, I must eat well. So you must understand who your unique audience are, and that must be your focus. Yeah. So I hope this has helped you so far.
Yes, sir.
Okay, great.
30 minutes. I'm looking
Yeah.
for.
Yes. So I will send you an email, and then we'll book a slot on my calendar. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, then thank you very much. Okay. And the next person will be Oreva. Thank you. If you're still interested, let me know. If I sent you a link, we only have 5 more minutes, and then we'll begin to wrap it up. Okay. If Oreva is not able to join, the next person that asks is Talia Abishai. Okay. Let me see if I've got your email here, and then I will send you the link as well. Okay. Okay, Oreva, I sent it to your email. You should check an email from StartUp Advantage. oreva.nancy@xxxx.com. I don't want to give your email address here. So, but yes, I've sent it to you. Check. And if you didn't get it, then let's move to the next person. It could be in your spam, possibly. Or perhaps you know what's going to happen. I will drop the link on the chat. So if you look at the chat, you will see the link there. Just click on the link and join. So it's easier. Did you get it? Hope it's been good so far. You can, while she's trying to join, you can just let me know your thoughts in the comment section. How has it been for you? What is one thing that you have learned? Because again, this is a feedback session. It will help us to be able to structure things better, such that people are able to maximize the benefit that they have to get from this. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Oreva, I'm not sure if you have been able to join. Just type and let me know. I've got 2 more minutes. It is 9 o'clock, and I tried not to exceed the time that I promised. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you. That's the idea. That's the idea of the framework. So that at least it helps you assess yourself sincerely and know where you stand. And then now this is the good thing. Perhaps while she's trying to join, if you're part of our Startup Advantage community on Skool, we have a resource section on there, and you can be able to access this material. So the recording will be put on there. The slides that I use for tonight's session will be put on there. And so if this is of any value to you, you can commit to it. I'll share further details as we wrap it up. I've just got 1 more minute, and unfortunately, we can't do it again. I can't bring on anybody else on the hot seat. Let's just move on, and then perhaps at least I have a 30 minutes free one-to-one session based on my ability, and I'll be able to share it with you guys. But again, the idea of it is that while this seat is being run, I want you to understand that you guys are also being assessed. So let me give you guys an assessment. Okay, no worries at all. No worries. I mean, even the time is fast spent. No worries. What I will encourage you guys to do is, for those of us who are already in our community on Skool, you have to post your assessment. We can't do one more. We can't do one more. I'm sorry. I want to stick to the time so that at least I respect people's time. We agree 7:30 to 9 p.m. and I don't want to exceed that. And so I want you to post on our community on Skool, which you will get the link. I want you to please post your own assessment of where you believe you are on the scorecard, and then one action that you're going to take within this week. Remember, part of what this does is to give an accountability structure, such that just like how we have it in our traditional school system, when you know that the teacher is going to ask if you have done your homework the next time, then automatically it gets you going such that you're able to make the most of it. And so our next session, yes, don't worry, yes, the one-to-one session is possible. You will see the link on the screen. I just said it right. So, but our next session, thank you very much, Stephen. Thank you. So for our next session, which I gave the date as the 23rd, is that right? The 20th of September. 20th of September, same time, 7:30 to 9 p.m. We're looking at how you can build your business structure. Because again, remember, the idea is that you are able to build your business, grow your business, and therefore impact on the economy. So let me offer to you Startup Advantage, what we offer within our community very quickly. One of the things that I aim to accomplish is that I aim to provide a one ecosystem whereby we are going to be with you at every step of your journey. Like what happened to Inola today, part of what I'm hoping to do is that every time we meet, we bring two people on the hot seat. And the hot seat here is to spotlight your business, because somebody within the community will be able to know what you have to offer and could be able to patronize you. And so it's a free advertising platform when you think about it. You get access to the content that we produce on Startup Advantage, what we share on our social media handles by being part of it. That's the free element of it. Like this educational platform is free. Okay. But if you now choose to be part of our community, there is a community membership that is to it. And part of what that does is that it's in different tiers. And I will explain that tiers in my next slide. But beyond the community membership, we also offer financial services, in other words, or professional services. So whether you want to register a business, we can help you do that. Or whether you need your confirmation statements or your accounting services, bookkeeping services for your business done, or one-off consultation, we also provide that. Remember, the idea of it is to be able to help you to build a sustainable business such that you are able to build, grow, and consequently impact on the economy. Okay. If you want to be part of the Startup Advantage community, we are present on Skool. It's $24.99 a month. I don't believe that's too much. Bear in mind that you could spend more in a month, but this is the value that you're getting. But also we have the Advantage Circle. In other words, people who who pay for this £99 a month, they get to have one-to-one sessions with me. This is as part of your package. You get 20% discount on our professional services. And then any questions that you may have pertaining to your business, you are able to ask if you're part of the Founders Circle. Now, for our professional services, is right there on the screen. We have a monthly retainer. In this case, you're already having a running business. So rather than you have an accountant present within your business and you have to pay PAYE and NI on that particular person, whereas they may not be busy for the entire period of the year, we can come along as your virtual accountant. And what that means is that for £350 a month, we set up your accounting system. We reconcile your books so long as it's not more than 80 transactions in a month. We help you with your invoice management. In other words, if you need to send invoice to clients to chase them up for your money, we can help you do that. If you're VAT registered, we could help you file your VAT returns, prepare quarterly management account, because for a business that is as small, we will prepare your accounts for you to review, to speak to you, to analyze your numbers, and to help you to explore other possibilities of how to grow and scale your business. And the hope is that you will now be able to grow from the essential stage to the growth stage, whereby you have, by virtue of being with us, your business has therefore grown, and therefore the requirements that you will need from StartUp Advantage shifts to the next level. And then the idea is that at some point in time in your journey with us, you will be at the executive membership level. And so if you don't want a retainer, we have one-off services that we offer. If you just want to set up your accounting system, we set it up for you, either Xero, QuickBooks, or the rest, and then we hand over the details to you. We do that for £299 a month. If you want finance consultation, in other words, a 2-hour session whereby we sit together from start to finish analyzing your business, that's for £199. If you want to register for VAT, we can also help you do that. Set up your PAYE, have staff on your payroll already. I know that there are a number of clients who are already doing that with us, but again, you will see that at the end of this. And then if you want to prepare cash flow model. So what is this important for? Perhaps you want to apply for a bid, a grant, and you need someone to help you with financial projections, your P&L, your balance sheet, your forecasting. We could also help you with that for a one-off fee of £450 a month. And then if you want an annual business audit, in other words, you have done your full year in a business and you just want us to review your numbers to see what were the leakages, what do you need to do differently to help you with that, that's $499, and that's a one-off. But don't forget, as the business grows, the prices will not remain the same. Now, for many of us who have asked for the discovery call, in other words, the 30 minutes session, here is the link on how you can get it. You can see that there is a code on the screen. It's the inquiry form. If you fill that form in, you will get an email from StartUp Advantage giving you the calendar, the availability, and then you can be able to book a slot, and then we can have a one-to-one discovery call. It's just for 30 minutes only, and then we will be able to do it. Okay, so the QR code on the screen, you can screenshot it while you're here. And so that is it about StartUp Advantage. I hope tonight you have been able to grab one or two things that you are able to run with in your business. My earnest desire as a founder of this initiative is that I'm able to help people to grow their businesses to the point where they can say, yes, the money that I'm earning from my business is able to replace my 9-to-5, escape the rat race, and be able to grow a legacy that even you will be proud of and you can pass on to the next generation. Okay? Having said that, it's been a pleasure having you all join us. Again, I'm very grateful for you all coming online here with us today. And then hopefully, by God's grace, we'll be able to meet again next month. But before you leave, I want to show you a video of what other people are saying about what they have experienced with us at the StartUp Advantage. So again, I'm sure you'll be able to appreciate this. I think that's the wrong video. 1 second. Pardon me, please. Okay. There you go. Okay. There it is.
Hi guys, my name is Daniel Agbaswa and I run Betach Group. StartUp Advantage has helped me to create a good business plan, a good pitch deck, and a structured business model. As a result, guys, I'm in the process of registering my company. I have a good pitch deck for potential investors, and I have a good positioning in the market. StartUp Advantage is my guy.
Hello, my name is Joy. My husband and I run a business called Sparklesu Joy Entertainment Limited. When we got the idea for this business, we were confused on how to start. So we signed up for the StartUp Advantage, and with the information provided, we were able to get clarity. We were able to validate the idea and build the structure of the business. From the registration of the business down to how the business will be run. Now we are 6 months in business and we are thriving. We do business in Wales and we have extended to England and we are progressing. A big thank you to the StartUp Advantage for guiding us through every step of the way.
Today, my name is Adekunle Olaosebekan. I run a fruit and beverage manufacturing business here in United Kingdom. I know you must have come across our business in one way or the other. So I would like to talk about some of the advantages, some of the services that StartUp Advantage has rendered for our business in the course of our, our growth journey. We are at a phase we are looking at scaling up our business, and it becomes so important for us to put in place strategies, that we put our business up there where everybody, where we can be seen. So, part of the strategies we look at putting in place includes strategy, branding. We look at visibility, how to get visibility for the business, like putting up a website and all. So StartUp Advantage really helped us in arranging sequentially how the progression at which we can get the desired the benefits that we have, and I can tell you for free that part of the services that we got has really helped the organization, leveraging on the community that we have built. We've been able to form collaboration with several organizations, business that are related to what we're doing, and that has really helped us to get desired visibility that we want. We are still work in progress. We are still working hard to ensure that we take advantage of the strategies that we have we've jointly put in place, and I can tell you, it's really a good deal, for us, and we are still in the journey, and we hope, with continuous support and guidance, and we'll be able to get the desired result that we're looking for. So from me to you, I can say StartUp Advantage is an organization that is that you can rely on, that you can call upon anytime you need business strategies, business ideas. You are starting up your business, or you're already trying to scale your business. They can really offer you services that will help you to achieve your strategic objectives, goals that you have set. Thank you, and see you there.
Hi everyone, my name is Dr. Adeshola Ademloye. I am the founder of Equipe Stewards. StartUp Advantage helped us with registering the company and getting us started with respect to compliance and documentation. For the almost 3 years, they have been with us in helping us with filing returns, confirmation statements, and has been helping us with keeping up to date with the regulations and also the requirements for our documentations. I would highly recommend their service to you, and good luck and all the best with your company.
Hi guys, my name is Olalekan. Together with my wife, we're directors of Divine Kids Limited. We are a daycare nursery business, particularly in the Gloucestershire area. But I want to talk about the StartUp Advantage very, very quickly. We partnered with StartUp Advantage for a few years now as we started up the business, and it's been an amazing experience so far. It's been really good to have someone, you know, and have an organization that can really be there as that sounding block, that comfort, someone that can show you the ropes and gradually lead you to water. So if you're trying to do something similar, and you're asking yourself, okay, what are the pitfalls, you know, what are the concerns you might have, you know, StartUp Advantage will be a good, you know, business to partner with that can really, really help you and just take you through those steps. And really, I would say, you know, meets you at the point where you are, whether you're trying to run a big, but meet you at that point and really work with you and help you to get to the point where you want to get to. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing you guys, you know, also partner, and yeah, good luck for the future.
Okay, so thank you everybody very much. Because I'm a faith-based person, it would allow me to pray. Father God in heaven, I thank you for every business that is present here. I ask that, Lord, that you breathe upon these businesses, that, Lord, it will succeed. The wisdom needed for them to excel, Lord, you grant each and every one of us, that above all, that we will look back and say, yes, this is what the Lord has done. In Jesus' mighty name, amen and amen. And so, guys, until next time, have a good one, and God bless you all. Amen.